as part of that, on the cost front, how does tax weigh in?
Well, I think tax is also a factor. From the Spanish point of view, I think that the Spanish tax environment is very pro-international investment. There are really very few obstacles. I would say that for Spanish companies, it's cheaper to do business abroad than to do it in Spain. So in addition to other cost savings, from the tax point of view, there is no obstacle at all to go abroad. Even there are some very interesting incentives, like the deduction of the goodwill paid in acquisitions and others. No? So I think that regarding overseas expansion for Spanish companies, I think that tax is more something that helps rather than an obstacle.
For companies that are based outside of Spain, in particular, for example, the UK, which is fairly high-cost location, is tax policies acting as a driver? For example, Shire, as we all know, took a look at the tax situation and decided that it made sense to not be headquartered in London. Is that perhaps an opportunity for a country like Spain?
Well, I think that moving headquarters from a country to another country is not so easy. It's a very radical decision. In the case of Shire, I don't know. They'll probably have their motives. In the case of the U.S., it's also quite normal that U.S. companies expatriate themselves because they have rules that, from a tax point of view, a company is ruled by its incorporation jurisdiction. No? But here in Europe, we follow more effective management. So to move all the effective management from one country to the other, I think is not in the agenda. And normally, big groups tend to have different. They have subsidiaries in different countries, so they are subject to different tax jurisdictions. It's not just a matter of moving the headquarters and then changing all the taxes. No. Here today, the biotech companies pay taxes all over the world. So it's more a question of planning your transactions rather than moving your headquarters. Sometimes there can be other cases. No. And also foreign investors in Spain, I think that Spain also offers very interesting tax benefits, especially for biotech. I think that the most important tax credit in Spain in terms of tax collection, there are statistics, is the research and development tax credit is the most powerful. So the percentage of an investment that can be recovered through taxes in case of R&D activities is easily above 30%, 50%, or even you can reach up to 70% depending on the planning of the transaction. So I think that for new investments, there are very good tax schemes to invest in Spain, to carry out activities in Spain in the biotech sector, provided that R&D activities are carried out. This is because in Spain we have, for many years, we were very, very slow in R&D, very, very low expense in R&D, and the government is, some years ago, is very conscious about this, so they are promoting as much as possible the R&D activities. In fact, this last months in Spain, the mantra in the government is we have to change our model. No, we have to change from brick and mortar or tourism or old steel industry and this kind of activity into R&D, new technologies, biotechnologies, renewable energy, and this kind of thing. So the support from the government is very, very high, and this is transferred to the tax regulations.
From the perspective of BioSerentia, how important are things such as the R&D tax credit? How much does this matter, especially for a company in the early stages of development?
Well, as Ignacio pointed out, now Spain is highly competitive in the tax area. There is an extraordinary environment, and it's a very good climate for innovation, generally speaking, in Spain nowadays. I will also add just a quick comment about the tax environment. Just in certain parts of Spain, you can enjoy down to 4% corporate taxes, just because of some that we can go afterwards. We can go on this afterwards if we want. But from the perspective of Bioserentia, we are having some deals going on, and we have to structure them in a very creative way, taking use of the advantages of the technological fund. This is a huge opportunity for any foreign company that want to invest or want to delocalize an asset, biotech, any asset in biotechnology or in R&D activity in Spain. Now, one of the deals that we are on what we are working on is a licensing agreement whereby the company, the licensor, is taking equity of the licensee. Just because of taking advantage of this technological fund. So basically, everyone wins. No one. I mean, there's not too much cash going in and out, and everyone is happy. I mean, operations are gonna be funded for 3 years' time, and the compound is gonna be taken to phase 1, which is highly competitive in this area.
Mr. Hernandez, maybe this is a chance for you to explain why the shift for the Spanish government in promoting a sector like biotech, and how can an investment promotion agency best help an industry?
I agree with Ignacio also that in Spain we need to change our model of growth. In the short term, we have this bricks, mortar, and for the medium term, it's very important for us to let's say, to foster those new sectors which are very competitive in Spain, related to our natural resources, the commitment of the government, the assistance of infrastructures, research centers, and let's say capacities coming from our own companies and entrepreneurs. There are mainly 4 interesting sectors: ICT, of course, renewable energies, water treatment, environment. These sectors are related to perhaps 30% of our GDP. Only, for instance, ICT is close to 11% of our GDP. And, of course, biotech, life sciences, which are not so important in terms of, in quantitative terms, in our GDP, but are very important related to the growth, as Mr. Bu mentioned before, no? Mr. Su, sorry. The growth of this sector in Spain for the last 4 years was 350%. Every year, on average, we are experiencing a growth of close to 50%. Then the interesting growth of these sectors, the liberalization of these sectors, and the commitment coming from the government in all of them for different reasons. The infrastructures in general related to not only physical infrastructures, but also technological infrastructures, technological parks, science parks, universities. I think also it's important not only the cost for investors, on our view, but the availability of skilled workers. Always we are trying to contrast our, let's say, information coming from the investors with data coming from reliable sources. We use, for instance, OECD source, the scoreboard, OECD scoreboard for taxation for R&D activities. Spain is the first, not only for big companies, but also for small and medium enterprises. Also, the government, in order to foster this sector, has established, on the one hand, the R&D incentives in our taxation, but also deduction of 40% of the payment, that social security payments of the companies for their personnel related to research. And the company is able to choose which scheme they prefer. And I think the drivers for all these sectors in general, if you talk about, let's say, the macroeconomic fundamentals of competitiveness, Michael Porter theories, the diamond, the so-called diamond. We have natural resources, on the one hand, for all these sectors, the commitment coming from the government, the system of interesting clusters and bioclusters, and finally, the skills coming from the human capital and the companies alike.
For a company such as Shire, when assessing new locations, how much do things such as an R&D tax credit matter, and what support would you be looking for from a government in terms of improving the investment environment, making it make cost sense for you to be there?
I think, obviously the tax policy does play into consideration. There's no question about that. It's not, the factor, but obviously it is an important part of the consideration. Many other factors are also important. I think the gentleman already mentioned about the educated labor force. I think that's a very important part of the consideration, since we're looking at high technology, biotechnology, and we need people who really are educated and are able to perform the research and development tasks. That's important. And the other part really is a local network. I think if you got a fairly scattered group of companies not well connected, that would not be very conducive for a biotech approach. So we're looking for some type of center of excellence kind of setup. I think that would certainly help to move forward with the biotechnology industry growth in a particular country.